Carlos, we a lot of times think about how to win companies over and how to distinctly share Seedcamp's value proposition, right? How do we make them understand that we might be their best possible investor at this stage? If if you were to talk to a founder, kind of advising them on how to DD their investor, what advice would you give?
So we do cover part of this in the book, and to some extent, I think that that's flipped a little bit, right? Because now you're probably doing some research on the outbound about who you're going to talk to. So in theory, you already know, right? By the time you're engaging with them. But let's pretend for a second that you kind of know well enough, but on the flip side, you now want to do a little bit more. I mean, for one, there's a lot of questions you can ask during your meeting with them. I mean, you should definitely have some questions prepared for the investor, particularly if at the end of the meeting they say, "Hey, do you have any questions for us?" It's a good opportunity to get to know the team, how they work together, what the process is, who are you going to be working with the team if they do invest. How do they work with companies? How long they work with companies for? Is it for the life of the company? Is it for a period of time? Do they invest follow-ons afterwards? I mean, there's a whole series of questions you can ask about the journey. You can always reach out to other companies that they've invested in and then just get a genuine opinion. I mean, you can always ask for intros, but you can also just reach out and be like, "Hey, by the way, I'm looking at taking money from these guys. What do you think?" And so those are all little triage things that you can do to figure out whether it's somebody you want to work with. And ultimately, you also have to calibrate, is this person the right person for me to be in a marriage with, right? And the reason why I use that word is because some of the relationships can be last a long time. And then as with marriages, and anybody who knows me well knows that I only have a short-term experience with giving any kind of statements about marriage here. But the funny thing about it is that from what I understand, it evolves with time, right? It evolves with time, and that nature of that relationship changes. So you need to understand the expectations that investor has as that relationship changes. And I'll be very precise with an example. Your pre-seed investor is probably not going to be the expert about IPOs. But if that pre-seed investor has an expectation to be the expert and to remain on governance bodies all through the life cycle of your company without your consent, that is an interesting thing to lean in on, because there are some investors who might have some authority in stating that. Let's pretend that they say they swap out different partners to do that, and others might just think they do and they really don't. And so that's an example of what I mean by understanding what expectations they have for the relationship as it evolves.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the most underrated aspects of an investor, the humility of when to do something and also when to step back, when to know you're actually not the right person for that founder at that specific stage of the company's life cycle.